Welcome everyone to another episode of Crypto Visionaries. With me today, I have the Rug Doctor. So you want to tell us about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, of course, absolutely. I'm happy to be here and this will be fun. So I am the Rug Doctor, which is obviously not my real name, but I am not doxed. I started a large DeFi safety community. My background is actually in biomedical engineering. I am a real doctor. I have a PhD in that metrics. Um, and I basically have some engineering background from that. So I have been familiar with like programming and other types of related software sorts of development issues from my PhD work. So with a background in different types of programming languages combined with an passion for crypto, they just kind of eventually combined. I'd been in crypto for a while, just holding Bitcoin, the usual old school sort of stuff. One of my friends showed my husband and I DeFi back in, I think, about January. And we were just like, wow, not only can we just hold our crypto, we can actually use our crypto to, stake and make interest on it, which is far more appealing than just holding crypto, especially now, sitting in this bear market. It's much more comforting to know that you can still build your bag while everything is super depressed. So anyways, my husband got properly rugged on this tragic site called Molten Swap, even though we probably should have known better. He was just like stomping about the house, getting all like upset and being like, oh, I hate ruggers, like I want them to die. And of course, I've gotten properly rugged a few times too. But eventually, he was just like, we need to figure out a way to stop this. And next thing you know, we started a Telegram channel. I taught myself Solidity and started scanning and reviewing contracts. And we've been growing ever since. And so that's basically the story of how we came to be. We got rugged, it sucked, taught myself how to review contracts, and here we are.
Cool. So that's how you got started with Rug Doctor.
Yep.
That's pretty cool. So what's the kind of like evaluation process when you're looking at code for a farm, and how do you spot like whether or not it's a potential rug?
Sure, absolutely. So our initiative is completely peer-reviewed, community-oriented. We do the whole entire crowdsourced situation because I really think that that's the way that you keep everybody and everything in check. I think when you have like a top-down organization, it's just prone to, exploits are just being run a particular way. Whereas if you open something up to the community, you get a variety of perspectives and criticisms, which will help your project succeed more. So anyways, everything starts by a review request just being sent to our main chat on Telegram, RugDoc chat. It can be from the farm, it could be from a random investor, or just even someone who's curious about it. These requests get logged into a database, which our team then scans and review it. Way back in the day, it was only me doing these scans, and my life was literally just like morning to night looking at code. But luckily, we've grown to a point now where I have a really awesome team of scanners that we've actually recruited from inside of our community. And so we all kind of work together to check each other's work and get everything uploaded to our website, essentially. We really look at these Solidity contracts, at these smart contracts, whatever the smart contract for a project that really controls it. Usually it's a master chef for a farm, but it could be a strategy or a factory if it's an AMM, or if it's a vault. And we basically look through these codes manually. We don't use a software. We just don't think software is properly able to pick up on novel types of exploits, because rugs and exploits are truly an exercise in human innovation, trying to get one step ahead. So we manually review these and we check for features, usually in deposit fees or transfer fees. We'll check custom features. We look for common bugs, migrator functions, and we actually keep a comprehensive library on our Wikipedia, wiki.rugdoc.io, of common exploits and bugs. So, if you're ever curious about checking your own contracts, or at least at a basic level, you can start to run them by your own self. We do also, to some point, look at tokenomics now, just because, again, this is a community-oriented project, and we had enough calls that they really wanted us to start looking more at serious tokenomics issues. While our goal is truly to look in the contract for hard rug code, we do also look for just certain types of softer features that are basically a recipe for failure.
Interesting. What's been one of the most unique or like the most sneaky kind of rug malicious code that you've seen?
Sure. So, like I said, codes are basically an exercise in human innovation, right? They're literally just these farms and exchanges that are malicious trying to outrun auditors or security companies or their community or ultimately us at this point. And so it's very easy now for us to spot a migrator. It's very uncommon that we see just a straight up migrator code anymore. Sometimes they'll be hidden in a proxy contract or something that has like a little bit of a layer of subtlety to it. But recently, our most sophisticated rug code was Stable Magnet. Stablematic, it was a Doppel fork, so it was a fairly complex project involving several contracts, and it had been firmly audited and looked at by third-party reviewers, and the code looked clean. Honestly, the code initially looked clean to us too, but when our team started to like really poke through it, we saw that there was an unverified library after this project just basically like rugged out of the blue, because everything looked fine. The token looked fine, its strategy looked fine. No one had any clue like what contract could possibly have just rugged, and it's still like $22 million or something like that. And eventually when we started like poking through it, as did a couple people over on the gems team, it was found that there was an unverified library contract of all things, which could drain LP and transfer tokens out of the wallet with a simple approval to this website, which is crazy because if you know anything about how smart contracts are set up, a library contract is usually the most boring, benign, basic contract out there. It's the thing that basically tells you how to do math or how to just like set up the functions that you're even going to use in a contract. It's like in a dictionary, it's like just looking at a bunch of definitions that you're going to use to write a book with.
Yeah.
So basically the fact that there was this unverified library that went all the way back to Doppel as the parent, this very clever team figured out that they could just stick some rug code in this library and nobody would ever notice, because nobody really noticed that this library existed, let alone that it was unverified. So once it was found, we literally started contacting other teams like Doppel and a couple other similar fork projects that were going to also be using this unverified library. And we told them that, hey guys, we found this crazy rug and that stable magnet shenanigans that went down, and you guys really need to verify your library as well, just so the community feels at ease that nothing crazy is going on in there.
Right.
So that was an interesting one.
And so just kind of like a maybe off topic question, but when it comes to the code written and the smart contracts written for projects that are built on Polygon, for example, would it be the same structure or the same code could be copy and pasted to something like the Ethereum mainnet or like Phantom or Avalanche or all these other networks, or does there still require some changes?
No, all of these contracts are pretty much identical. They can be used on any Explorer chain because pretty much all of these chains are based off of the same underlying Ethereum principles, right?
Yeah.
And so the fact that they're all based off of this one main Ethereum chain at the end of the day means that they're all written in the same programming language, means that they're all generated and organized in a very similar fashion. So yeah, a rug in BSC could be used in a rug in Polygon and Avalanche and Coup and anything, and it will look exactly the same. The only difference is just how that contract is uploaded to their Explorer to be verified.
Right. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to go back to slide 2? Sorry, I got you out.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
Okay, yeah. So the question was, how can an average user spot a potential rug pull?
Yep. So if you are not familiar with Solidity, we are probably going to be your best resource. And so honestly, I'm not just trying to shill myself, but if you're looking to check your contracts, we're probably going to be the best website to do that. So check out rugdoc.io for our ratings and our Telegram announcements. Because whenever we find something that is a risk to invest in, we're going to call it out and we're going to tell you exactly what's in there. Ultimately, the way that we base our scans off of is by using diff checker or some other similar text comparison tool to basically look at a code, like you can see in this picture over here. You basically look at a project's code and we compare it to whatever the heck it was forked off of. And the forks that we look at are these established, long-lasting, and firmly audited, time-tested projects. So they're going to be like Uniswap or PancakeSwap or Goose that have been firmly out for a long time, that projects have been that hackers have been trying to exploit and that audit companies have basically given a green light to. And we basically from there, assuming that these parent forks are going to be pretty safe, we look for the differences. What did these projects change? You can do things that are literally like super simple once you have a diff checker pulled up. If you don't understand code at all, you can literally just go through our rug library on our wiki and just start control Fing like migrator, migrate, transfer, and see if anything matches up with our known exploit and rug codes. You should always check your contracts at launch, because if a project uploads something to their GitHub or some other repository or just sends, I don't know, a screenshot of a text file, it means that they could literally verify and upload anything onto Explorer. And so what you want to do is you want to be able to check your contract interactions at launch before you stake anything. And you want to make sure that the master chef or the strategy or factory or whatever you're interacting with is the same exact one that we have reviewed and given a rating to. Because if you haven't been able to stake, a project could theoretically switch contract and hide anything in there. And then, well, that's a problem, because that's how you get crappy functions stuck in there. So those are probably the easiest ways to deal with that.
Cool. So then after a contract is deployed, can it still be like changed and altered, or is that
Once a
what the migrator
contract,
does?
sure. Once a contract is deployed, no, it can't be changed. Once you start to actually have a contract that is being used by the farm, which means that it is deployed, it may or may not be verified, but it's basically the contract that people are interacting with and that they're staking funds to. So once you start to have a farm that is, you're able to stake funds into that contract is what we call immutable. It cannot be changed. You can change things like variables, such as, a percent deposit fee. If your deposit fees could theoretically go all the way up to 100%, it means that, that feature could be changed. Maybe they release it and it's a 4% deposit fee, but theoretically that dev could change it all the way up to 100%. But you cannot suddenly add a function like a migrator code.
Cool. Interesting. So yeah, what are some of the red flags that people can?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So this is kind of related, which is why, they're right next to each other in the slides. So what are some red flags? Ultimately, the code is clean, is like super cheesy phrase that we like to use over at RugDoc, because like I said, these contracts are immutable. What is written in a contract, it's done. Once you have that, there's nothing else that can be changed in terms of adding a function. So if you understand that the code is clean, that can't be changed in the future. So check your code, or let us check your code for you. Make sure that it's clean. If it's not, well, that's going to be a giant red flag. If a contract is not verified, that's also really suspicious. So make sure that the contract is something that you can actually read on top of being the actual contract that you are interacting with. You can also look at things that are softer elements like socials and community activity. Does the dev seem to be active and engaged? Do they have an actual history? Does the team, like the moderators and whoever is working on this project, do they have a known history? Is the history a good one or a bad one? Is the community being treated fairly respectfully, and are there questions being answered? Or when the community has concerns, does the team kind of move around it and decide to not answer, or just straight up ban people or like mute their chat? That's a huge red flag.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
When suddenly the chat goes dark, ugh, be concerned. Sudden stealth launches are also something that we're seeing now. I think with the rise of people understanding how to utilize us as a tool and or just check their own contracts, it's harder to slip in these exploits and rugs. It really is. You have to be a clever team to create an innovative rug.
Mhm.
Or you just need to try and move really fast, get some TVL in there, and then just like rug it before we've even had a chance to look at it, or before the community has had a chance to really review your contract. So these days when we see a project just like literally come out of nowhere and like just immediately start their project like with nothing going on, or like minimal advertising, or just like no time, that is a bit of a red flag for us, because it could just be that they're just going to try and like throw a rug up, wait 15 minutes, and then just like peace out.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can read your code, or at least just like go through a contract and literally control F, as simple as that, for like proxy or migrator, that's going to be a red flag, because those are both functions that can be used to pull off a rug or some other terrible exploit. And any dev at this point who tells you that they need a migrator is absolutely full of shit, because migrators have been around popularly since PancakeSwap, because PancakeSwap said that that was going to be how that they were going to deal with their upgrades and everything. But for their version 2, PancakeSwap got rid of their migrator. If PancakeSwap does not need a migrator, neither do you. Like, at the end of the day, there's many other ways to deal with upgradability of your contract, and it does not involve a migrator in there.
It's good to know. Cool. So I understand that you guys do like advertising as well on RugDoc. So how does that work? Do you have a slide on that?
Yeah. So the way that advertising works is a farm has to be reviewed first. So it has to start off through that community request process. So the dev team or just random human out on the internet needs to basically go over and submit through our generic approval process. And once they are reviewed and on our website, then they can reach out to us if they have been reviewed as a some, low, or medium risk. We cannot advertise for high risk projects. So we have a rating system that has, I believe, 5 different ratings at this point. We just changed our system. We have not eligible for reviews, which we can't advertise for, because that just means that it is too complex for us to like firmly get a grasp on, since our project is free and our scanners, are just really going for this like free bulk volume.
Yeah.
So if a project is too complex for our scanners and has not come to us with an appropriate audit from one of our like preferred audit companies, we can't advertise for them. If they're high risk, which means that they include some sort of a function that could be used maliciously, even if they don't use it maliciously, if there's a migrator in there, we can't advertise for them. But if they hit like a least risk, a low risk, a some risk, or a medium risk, and some and medium risk basically mean that there could be some elements that might not be great, but there's no clear hard rug exploits in there. That's how that works. If a farm looks like it comes up as a not eligible, or a riskier looking medium risk, or a high risk, we can consult with them. And so then our team internally of scanners and a couple of our like auditors will work with a farm to basically patch their code in such a way that we feel deals with the user safety elements that were a concern to us. And then we can re-review their farm, and we can put it on up. And then we can advertise for them once they've like met our concerns and basically like fix their code, so that we are convinced that it's going to be safe for users. We also have metric tracking on all of our ads. So basically, if a farm can and does advertise with us, we can then provide them with really interesting information about like who is clicking through, who is looking at their farms, and just other like more general trends that you can see that we're able to see, like what chain is the most popular, or how long are people staring at a farm, or other elements like that that could be really useful to a developer. Our advertising is also conditional in that we can end their advertising at any time if we think that they're going to be a threat, or they operate maliciously, or they're just like a bad farm for whatever reason. If there's like some huge PR scandal, we're probably going to pull that ad too.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how our advertising works. It's conditional. You need to be reviewed. We can only do it if we feel somewhat assured in your project, which is still not a guarantee. It's a great farm, but
Do you have any thoughts on the iron finance that happened like a few weeks ago? Was that ever like an approved farm on RockDoc? Or did you guys
um
do it?
so iron is a complex protocol, so it was a not eligible for review farm for us just because it is a pretty big project. That said, my husband, and several other team members were in iron, both in native and non-native. And, it's an interesting farm, and I don't believe it was any sort of like a rug or traditional exploit as we think of it. But what really happened is the way that sort of a farm and that token is structured with the Iron Titan exchange situation, it basically means that when investors lose faith in it, you know how when a token starts to go down, it spurs a sell off,
Yeah,
and you just like definitely see like a huge panic dip.
yeah,
Now, that happens in pretty much every single project out there, but the way Iron itself was set up, it was set up in such a way that that death spiral is exacerbated, because once you lose peg, everything just goes like to
yeah,
absolute shit. It just goes to absolute shit real fast.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, we were in it. It was great for a while, but like we were all kind of on the lookout for when it was going to lose peg. And it was kind of funny because we were always approaching it really skeptically, because my team, obviously, we're very skeptical of farms. We treat everything with extreme caution. And so our chat had been nothing but iron talk for like 2-3 weeks. And we even like set up a rose command that basically said like, shut the fuck up about iron. Like, this is not the iron finance chat. This is Rock Talk chat. Like, please take your, whatever iron is going on today and how hyped you are for it, take it to their chat, please.
Yeah.
But so we had basically just been on the lookout for like, oh, when this thing starts to lose peg, which is inevitable because again, we treat things with extreme skepticism, this is going to get really wacky really fast. So I think we were kind of waiting for it. And a lot of our longer term members who had been listening to us just basically say like, please take your hype elsewhere. Like, this is not some amazing god level farm. It can fail. Like, it's just a matter of time. So yeah, that was our iron experience, I think, in a nutshell.
Yeah. I feel like people sometimes they force themselves to believe things because it would be better if it was true.
Oh, 100%. You see that all the time in DeFi. Like, the hopium is real.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You also mentioned that you have some preferred auditors that
Mhm.
you kind of, I guess, work with.
Yep.
I had a question about that because there was like some farms that I've been on, and I always assumed that like if it said that it was audited, if it had that stamp of approval, then it was like
Mhm.
legit and it could never rug, right? Because it was audited, it was checked by someone. But now I'm seeing like how common it is for projects to say
Mhm.
that they've been audited and then like they rug or they dump a lot. So yeah, like I wanted like what's your insight like on that?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So that's a really common misconception that you and so many other people have, that if something is audited, it is like safe, it's not going to rug you, it's fine. And that is just not true. So with the exception of maybe 3 or 4 auditors who are my preferred auditors, most audits out there literally just check functionality of the code, like Certic, for example, right? For some reason, Certic is the gold standard of audits. I have no idea why. Honestly, their audit is not that good to begin with.
Mhm.
And then because they don't incorporate any user safety elements, they are there to really deal with the client, and the client is the paying farm that's getting reviewed. They are testing the functionality of the farm's code, of the client's code. So if a farm has a migrator in it or a proxy in it, Certic or whoever is literally just going to go through it and be like, yep, migrator works perfectly. Good job, guys, A plus. And they're just going to make sure that the functions work and that they're not prone to like bugs, essentially. Which is great if you're making a contract or a software or something and you need to make sure that it's not buggy and it's going to work the way you intend it to work. But again, does not incorporate user safety elements or just usability elements at all.
Mm,
Um, there are three auditors that I really like to see because they do incorporate user safety and they will call out to different degrees if something is not going to be particularly safe. That's going to be Paladin blockchain security. It's going to be Peck Shield, and it's going to be GEMS. So those three companies provide audits that test for both functionality as well as usability. And of those, Paladin tends to go a little bit above and beyond. And if they flag something for a problem, I really like the fact that they work with the farm to then fix it. So they come up with user safety oriented solutions when they find problems or bugs in the code, which is part of the reason why they're one of my favorite auditors. So that's how I feel about audits.
do you guys consider yourself like auditors? I guess
No, no,
no.
we do not. Yeah, RugDoc is not an audit. We are a simple, quick scan. We are a review company. We're a peer review company. Our reviews of codes are good. We have an amazing track record. We have, knock on wood, never had a farm that we have said is like low risk ever hard rug on us. And we've reviewed over 1,000 farms as of yesterday. So we have a great track record. But that said, the quality and depth of our project is really about just being that number one ape stop. You know, we want to tell you real quick with volume to cover all the new farms and projects that you guys are requesting if things have a very preliminary safety assessment. That's our job. But like I said, tons of projects are not eligible for review because they're just going to be too complex for my quick review team to like go over when we're trying to review like 20 farms a day.
Mm,
And for those, that's when we recommend, going to Paladin, Peck Shield, or Gems to actually get this properly poked through. Because they're going to do a much more thorough, in-depth job that we just can't possibly do. Like they can spend hours and hours on something, whereas we just can't.
mm, cool. All right. The next slide.
Sure. I think we already saw that one. So I guess we can go to advice for new farmers.
Yeah. So yeah, what's some advice that you can give for new farmers? Because there's a
Yeah.
lot of new farmers that just don't know what they're doing.
I know, and it seems like there's more new farmers than there were in the last couple weeks. Like just the level of new users that we've seen in my chat, it's just, I mean, it's great. It means that DeFi is getting more mainstream, but it also means that there is so much education that needs to go into this field now, whereas you might have had more savvy, more experienced crypto investors in DeFi like even a month or two ago. Now it really is like new people who need basic crypto safety and education, which is part of the reason why we started our wiki. But anyways, for new farmers, when you enter DeFi, even as someone who's crypto savvy, the majority of the time you just get wrecked, right? It's just what happens. You either just like get lulled into this hopium dream of these like crazy APRs and you're like, holy shit, I'm going to be like a millionaire in like 45 days with like 4,000% APR, and you just like ape into some absolutely ridiculous token and it just like goes to zero because most of these farms are going to crash and burn fast, and you just get screwed. Or you're going to, if you don't understand that devs that are malicious are out there and you just take these farms at face value, maybe you're just going to like ape into a rug and you're going to get wrecked, or you just have a terrible strategy that's going to just overexpose you to risk and again you get wrecked. So number one, split your bags. Do not put everything you have in one farm. That is a terrible idea. even if you somehow think if you put like all your money into one farm and it like 10x's, then you'll have like so much money. Chances are that farm is not going to 10x. Chances are that farm is going to just like be a tragic disappointment. That's at least how I go about my own risk strategy, right? I just assume a farm is going to fail and I make a strategy based around the premise that this thing is going to fail.
Yeah.
Learn how impermanent loss works. This is something that a lot of people who are new to LP staking just don't understand. When you're sticking two different tokens together, like ETH and BTC, or I don't know, BNB and a native token, if something suddenly rapidly increases in price or rapidly decreases in price, it's going to adjust your liquidity pair. And so you're going to wind up potentially with impermanent loss. Don't just trust any dev, like I mentioned earlier. Assume everything is malicious. Just make that your default. Like assume everything and everyone is out to scam you, and make a strategy about that, because devs will lie. They're just some anonymous person. I'm just some anonymous person on the internet. It's just how DeFi is. You
Yeah.
can't just trust people. Um, you know, these are just random humans that you're never going to know about in real life, shielded by 10 layers of anonymity. So you have to really be your best advocate. Start with a really solid, like blue chip like project, like Pancake Swap or Ape Swap, because those are large established projects that have been out for a while, that are honestly like connected to the real world in enough of a way that it would be very problematic and unusual for these things to straight up scam you. So start up on a very established large platform, or just watch them, just like hang out in Pancake Swap chat or Ape Swap chat and just like watch, how these ape pools get added, and watch the interest rates change over time. Just like watch what happens for a couple days until you get like a pattern of how is DeFi and how does it work. Ask questions. So, obviously if you've been hanging out in a farm, ask questions in that farm's community, or go hang out in one of our chats. We have our main chat at RugDoc chat, and we also have a more degen chat if you're trying to figure out like strategy and other elements that we don't generally talk about in our main chat, which is safety oriented. We have a degen doc chat. So go ask questions over there. Someone would be able to help, or even better, educate yourself on the basics. So you can use something like our website to go and figure out, what is yield farming? How does it work? What is an APR? How do they change? How do you set up a wallet? How do you troubleshoot a wallet? Like all the questions that you're going to run into as a new investor, we are trying to make articles to deal with this. We also have a YouTube channel that does the same thing. So if you need to know how to emergency withdraw real quick, or how to check a contract interaction, and you're just not good with articles, you can go look at our YouTube, and we have videos on this stuff. And yep, again, like I said, assume the farm will fail, develop a risk strategy that accommodates this, and that's how you succeed.
Solid advice. Solid advice. I wish I knew about that a few months ago.
Me too. This is why I have these advice, because I have gotten firmly wrecked multiple times. Like I've seen plenty of people around me get wrecked multiple times, and we've learned, right? It was painful, but we're still here and we learned. And so hopefully it's less painful for people coming in now.
Mm. Yeah, I feel like it's very important now that there's like this whole era of like TikTok, crypto,
Oh yeah.
crypto people coming in.
I know. Yep, absolutely. A couple people on my team keep telling me like, "Oh, you need to go do a TikTok." And I'm like, "Absolutely not. I refuse. Like, no, I'm too old for this stuff." Like,
It's crazy though. They have a lot of influence on just.
I know, it's absolutely nuts.
Yeah. Cool. Do we have any more slides left, or is that?
I think so. Yeah, we have some common mistakes that new farmers make, right? So that kind of goes hand in hand with, advice. Like I said, I've gotten wrecked firmly, and I've watched so many people around me like get wrecked in many different ways. So common mistakes: aping more money than you can afford. Assume everything in DeFi, like I said earlier, is going to fail, right? So split your bags and make sure, if you're assuming that farm will fail, that it is an amount of money that you can actually afford to use. Like, you really do need to do your research and actually think about your individual finances when you're like entering into like DeFi farms. If you just pile your rent money or something that is, you know, an actual fund that you're going to need, and you pile it all into a farm and it just goes to zero because your strategy isn't that great, or I don't know, just a freak black swan event happens, you know, you're going to be out in the cold. Don't just trust a project's team for their word. You need to have proof. Ask for proof. If someone says that they do or don't have a certain code element, or that they are doing buybacks or whatever, you ask for transactions. Don't just assume that like this super cool charismatic dev is like honest and they're going to tell you the right thing, because there are some like teams out there who again are super charismatic and they seem awesome, and then you wind up like scammed, and it's terrible. Because again, these people are anonymous at the end of the day, or even doxed people. They may not be doxed. Even doxed people can scam you, because again, there's multiple layers of anonymity. It's not that hard to go and create a LinkedIn profile. It's not. I can make one in literally 5 minutes that says that I am Nubbers the cat, right? Doesn't mean I'm Nubbers the cat. Don't tie your emotions to the size of your bags instead of using logic. So you really need to evaluate your size, position, and individual finances, right? Don't just keep throwing more money in if something's going up, or like, you know, you need to actually follow a strategy, and you should be investing like a robot. That is the best advice in any financial situation, including DeFi. Invest like you're a robot. The more emotional of an investor you are, the more poor decisions you're going to make spur of the moment. Like I said, split your bags. Don't stick everything in one place. And, you know, don't, like, so many people in DeFi again see these crazy APRs and they think they're just going to get like $1 million and retire forever. That's not how this works. APRs change, token prices change, impermanent loss is real. You need to be nimble and be able to switch farms frequently and adjust your strategy in a non-emotional manner. You need to be able to adjust with a changing ecosystem. So, you know, even things like right now, we're in this like prolonged bear market from just like BTC being down. You know, this is a completely different strategy that I and most people I know am employing right now in DeFi than we were 3 months ago, because the system has changed, and it will change again when we go back into a bull market. But you need to be able to switch farms, switch strategies, and deal with changing price impacts essentially.
Yeah, so it requires a lot of active management, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. If you're heavy in DeFi, it's a full-time job.
Yeah.
A lot of management that has to be done, or else you're going to lose money, and you're going to lose money quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been subject to putting more money in when the project is going off. Like I put more money in, and the opposite
Yeah.
down. It always happens.
Yep.
It's like,
I know. Yep. You know, the classic buy high, sell low.
yeah.
Yeah, that's emotional investing right there.
But luckily we have resources like yours, like what I'm talking. You guys are doing a good thing.
Thanks. That's what we're trying to do. Like, we really are trying to be a solid community resource, and we try and be as transparent as possible with who we are, what we think, what we're doing, answering questions, and just really trying to create as many free, available, user-centered features that we can, that we wish we had. We try and make tools and protocols that we wish we had when we started.
Yeah. And I'm guessing this is your final slide.
Yeah.
Patterns and trends that you find with farms so far.
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, the ecosystem is constantly changing and evolving. The cryptosphere is constantly changing and evolving, and DeFi is a huge part of that. We're seeing the dominance of larger protocols these days, whereas you could pretty much enter any farm and hop about in it a couple months ago. Now we really are seeing that these like larger protocols that are just like eating all of this TVL, these are the ones that are going to be around, and it's harder for these smaller farms to really survive for longer periods of time, or to just be easy successes, whereas they used to be very simple to just like again hop into basically anything and, you know, be fine. We're also seeing differences in like withdrawal and deposit fees in a lot of these contracts. And so a lot of farms are starting to cap these, which is a great thing. And we really are pushing this ourselves. We are basically like encouraging the removal of all withdrawal fees and then capping deposits at 4%. Once Panther became a giant farm, we started to see transfer taxes. We also saw with like lava cake the entry of these harvest lock, like these prolonged harvest lockups. So whereas Panther introduced harvest locks, like now you're getting like 7-day harvest locks and things like that. And those require a very particular strategy that you need to like be familiar with. Um, Referral codes, that was something that didn't exist a few months ago in the code. And so it's interesting to see the use of these, and they can be one of the tools that really do help smaller farms succeed because they're giving incentives to people to get their buddies into it too. But they also require an extra layer of screening and scanning because you can definitely exploit a referral code to basically um, lock harvest or to throw like some shitty little scam in there. And now we're seeing this latest new chain trend. So whereas it used to just be like BSC and then it was BSC and Polygon, now I think people are just like hot for the next big thing because when Polygon opened, it was just like a rampaging success for weeks and weeks, right? It was like this crazy situation that every new farm on Polygon was just like an absolute like firecracker. And so now I think people are trying to replicate that, and you're seeing the rise of these smaller new chains that are trying to establish dominance and like enter into the field now, like Avalanche and like Coup and like Heiko and all these other ones that are trying to compete now. So it's definitely something that we've seen recently.
And what are some projects that you're personally like a fan of?
Sure. I mean, there's several projects that I'm a big fan of. I really do like ApeSwap quite a lot, and JetSwap, the Grand Banks. I definitely do hang around in degen farms, but I also hang around for weeks and weeks now in like established farms that I've been in for a long time and that I do indeed trust. Um, I don't generally hang out in straight up blue chips just because like, I don't know, Aave or Curve, just because those tend to have interest rates that don't just don't do it for me anymore, unfortunately. But you can find a pretty nice middle ground with things like ApeSwap or JetSwap or like Beefy.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
auto, they'll have a higher interest rate than, these true like stalwart blue chips, but they're going to be safer and thus have like much lower APR than, these absolute degen farms.
Mhm.
But like I said, I go in the degen farms too and I hang out in there happily. I just split my bags and a little bit goes into everything.
I feel like the blue chip ones like Curve and Aave, those are like the gateway drugs for like boomers or like super skeptical people. Like, wow, you're
Yeah.
2% on my stable coin. Let's do
I
it.
know, exactly. It's like you see like 5%, 7%, and they're like, "Holy shit, I've
Yeah.
never seen numbers this high." Because I was one of those too. I
Yeah.
remember when just I had a high interest savings account and it was like 1%. And I was like, "Whoa, 1%? Damn, look
My
at me, high
retirement on
roller."
60.
Yeah, exactly. And so moving from like my 1% savings account to, things like Curve, Aave, BlockFi that were giving me like 3 to like 9%, it's just like, holy crap,
Yeah.
I'm like in the money now. And
Yeah.
then I saw DeFi and I was just like, well, now I'm just ruined, just absolutely ruined by traditional finance.
I know. But ironically, I feel like uh, I would have been better off if I didn't know about like all these farms because if I like stuck and stayed patient and put like all my stable coins into like something like 5%, something that's stable,
Mhm.
probably retire like in a decent amount of years. But because there's so much more yield available, I don't want
Yeah,
I want like the crazy yield.
same.
Yeah.
Yep, I completely understand that feeling.
Cool. So yeah, if you guys want to find Rug Doc or get in touch with them, these are all their social media links. I highly recommend joining the Telegram. You can learn a lot there. It's super active. The YouTube, you guys just started with the YouTube, right?
Yeah, we have a YouTube now and we are uploading mostly educational content, but we are also starting to like cater a little bit more to our degen chat as well and just like show, the occasional play that someone on our team will do, or just like, yield farming like nonsense. But it is largely educational. And yeah, we got a YouTube.
Cool. Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed it. I really learned a lot. Um,
Thanks.
and yeah, looking forward to what you guys do next with RugDoc.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to have chatted with you. It was great.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Sure. Bye.